Hello everyone and welcome to Memory Flow, where we discuss fragrance and fragrance collecting. And today I want to speak to you about a fragrance that doesn't need any introduction whatsoever. It is a giant of perfumery, and this is Chanel's Antaeus. Antaeus was introduced in 1981 and is the work of none other than Jacques Polge. It is considered a leather chypre. And whenever we hear Antaeus, we tend to also hear some other things, such as 80s powerhouse, hypermasculinity, very animalic, and chest hair is more often than not brought up. So today we are going to look at some of these affirmations to see if there's any truth to them. So who is this Antaeus? Now, Antaeus, or Antaeus, because Antao means I oppose, it has the same root as anti, which means basically an opposition. He was one of the antagonists of Hercules. He was the son of Poseidon and Gaia, and he was guarding the entrance to the garden of Hesperides. I don't know how you pronounce Hesperides. I guess it's I would pronounce it Hesperides, Hesperides, I don't know. What is special though about Antaeus the giant is that he would draw his strength from the earth, from his mother. So as long as he was in contact with the earth, he would be invincible. That's why in order to defeat him, Hercules held him above ground in a crushing embrace. I have to say that this fragrance is very aptly named for an earthy chypre. It is one of the best names and one of the most beautiful references a perfume name can have. So how does Antaeus smell? The notes for this are citrus, sage, coriander, thyme, basil, rose, jasmine, although nothing particularly about this is floral. Then there's the base, which is myrrh, labdanum, oak moss, castoreum, and patchouli. Now this fragrance is very, very much oriented towards its heavy base, and although it does have some fresher aspects to it, especially in the opening, I do feel it's quite well balanced, and the notes are also very closely tied together, and it's very hard to pull the aspects apart properly, which of course it's a good thing. So some of the aspects are: it's an aromatic fragrance because Antaeus starts off green, very earthy, like an infusion of plants, which are also dry, very bitter, and quite vegetal. It's quite on the fougere side of patchouli, and it's very much like the opening of Héritage de Guerlain, if you know it. Now another aspect of this is leather, of course, and this is a very specific Chanel type of leather, which is very refined. It's the Cure de Russie type of leather, or more recently Le Lion, but that's only if you take the leather separately out of Antaeus, which is indeed pretty hard to do because, as I said, the aspects are very closely tied together. The leather is done here with labdanum and castoreum, and it's very resinous, syrupy texture wise. It's very dark and very thick, and slightly smoky. But this is one of the most elegant leathers you will ever find in a perfume. Another aspect is the chypre aspect, of course, which is earthy, woody. The oak moss patchouli is very present, especially in the dry down. The contrast between the very typical contrast between the bass and the top notes is what chypres are known for, and the dry down of Antaeus is very much oak moss, and it reminds me of Magie Noire. Antaeus has gone through several reformulations. What I have here is a 2010 bottle. That's why when it comes to its wilder, more animalic side or its hyper masculinity, I would say yes, but those aspects are toned down, so there's nothing exaggerated about it in this state. It is still a Chanel, so even if it very well might be the most animalic Chanel out there, it's still very well refined. It's very clean, it's very dapper, very elegant and impeccable. Antaeus is good, quite extremely so, even in its current formulation, which has the all black sprayer, so that particular formulation is less oak mossy and more resinous, and you can even distinguish the rose better without it ever turning into a floral scent, but it's just dark, just as dark, maybe even darker, so it's easier to wear and even a bit more modern, more in touch with the current tastes, which in my opinion that's not a bad thing at all. Now, as far as performance goes, I see no problems here. I can detect this fragrance very well after 8 hours or so, and although this is not a loud fragrance, but for me personally, this fragrance brings to mind a different instance where the same mythological giant makes an appearance, and this is in Dante's Inferno. Now, in Canto 31, this is where Dante and Virgil, of course, leave the 8th circle of hell and are about to enter a huge abyss which is dark and freezing cold, and is in fact the 9th and the last circle of hell, where Lucifer himself, well, speaking of Lucifer himself, that's what you've been hearing, where Lucifer himself resides. So as they are preparing to do so, now you know I'm wearing black, right? It's not a good idea. So as they are preparing to go to the 9th center of circle of hell, Dante sees something in the distance which he mistakes for tall towers of maybe a city, but in reality, as they get closer, the towers become the silhouettes of 3 giants embedded into the walls of the abyss. So the first giant is Nimrod, who helped build the Tower of Babel, and for this he is being punished with no longer being able to understand speech. Now the second giant is Ephialtes, who is there because he waged war against the gods, and as punishment he is bound tightly with chains. And the third one is of course Antaeus, who is being held there for only the danger that he poses as being a giant, but he remains unchained, and this is very important. He remains unchained because he did not wage war against the gods. He remained faithful and loyal. He is even praised by Virgil for his strength and integrity, and as a reward, Antaeus carries the two travelers safely to the bottom of the abyss in his palm. So, is Antaeus good? Yes. Yes, it is. Now, there you have it. This was my opinion of Antaeus, a very well defined and unique giant of perfumery, and one of the best Chanel has to offer at this point. As usual, do leave me your opinions in the comments. Do subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so already, and if you like this type of content and would like to buy me a coffee, you can do so using the link in the description below. And until next time, remember, fragrance creates memories, and may yours be happy. I have to get this hair out.